The Sonic series is home to a lot of very powerful characters. Off the top of my head, there's Knuckles, Shadow, Chaos, Dark Gaia, Mephiles, Charmy B. There are so many more characters that could be described as strong in this entire franchise, but riddle me this, my dear viewer. Which one of them is the strongest? Some may say Shadow, others may say Sonic. There are so many choices that it would take forever to come to an objective pick for the strongest Sonic character. But you're in luck, as I can save you many, many hours of research and speculation. For I do indeed have the answer. It's not Chaos, it's not Shadow, and hell, it isn't even Sonic. The objective, strongest Sonic character is 100% without a doubt, Big the Cat. Now you must be thinking, how could Big possibly be the strongest Sonic character? Well, to explain this, we have to go back to the very beginning. 1830. Industrial Revolution. Big first debuted in Sonic Adventure, where his entire storyline was trying to catch Froggy. Unbeknownst to him, he was placed into the middle of a world-ending event that would directly involve his friend-shaped ball of madness and destruction. This was a very unique situation Big found himself in, despite how he was seemingly not meant to be there, as it was a massive coincidence that Froggy was an integral part of the story in SA1. But what if I told you that it wasn't a coincidence? Sonic Adventure 2. Sonic Adventure 2. Big can be seen in a myriad of places throughout the game. Lurking on streets, hanging from blimps, fishing in space, sitting comfortably at the bottom of the ocean. Big is found everywhere in SA2, just being there. But I bet you're asking, what does this prove? Well, it proves that Big regularly transcends causality and does not abide by the laws of this universe. Throughout SA2, he can be found in places and situations that would simply be impossible for someone like him to do, especially at the speed he's going at to reach each location before the integral players in the story can even get there. This is especially significant because, unlike most of the cast in the Sonic series, Big has no powers to his name. He has some level of strength that is exhibited in Sonic Heroes, and he can fish. That's about it. But I believe that this is just a facade that he puts on to seem relatively powerless, when in actuality, he is the strongest character the franchise has ever seen. Big seemingly has no powers because he chose to represent himself as someone powerless. He created a persona that is meant to dissuade his friends, enemies, and even us, the audience. Still don't believe me? Sonic and the Secret Rings. Big can be found in various places despite this being an entirely different reality that he shouldn't be in to begin with. Swimming in Zone Zero, or how it's more commonly referred to as the Lost Paralogue. It's prologue. How did this take me this long to notice? Which we have only known to be a space that Sonic can inhabit along with the genie that brought him there to begin with. We can even extrapolate evidence from games that he doesn't appear in to support this thesis. He doesn't appear in Sonic Generations as the Time Eater, a being that can freely manipulate time, no duh, could not contend with Big's power, as he is a being that transcends time itself, only appearing in the game via a trophy that every player will cherish and value, as the sheer magnificence of it would send anyone into a trance. And if we were to take some evidence that is seen outside of the games, the reason why Big wasn't in Sonic Forces was simply because he was too powerful, and would disrupt the balance of power in the plot. Aaron Webber has stated so himself. Oh, you want a source? Okay, so here's the funny part about that. It can even be theorized that when Sonic defeated Infinite at the end of Forces, as a last resort he tried copying Big to destroy Sonic. But due to Big's influence and power, the Phantom Ruby couldn't handle it, and whisked Infinite away, explaining why he suddenly disappears from existence. So it's shown that Big is even more powerful than the Phantom Ruby, a gemstone that rivals the 7 Chaos Emeralds. If I still haven't convinced you, then I have one more piece of evidence. In Sonic Frontiers, we learn that throughout the game, Sonic is being watched by an unknown entity, who we later discover is a god, and has been stated as something that is even more powerful than any of the foes Sonic has faced thus far. But despite the seeming omnipotence of this entity, it didn't mention anything about Big being there in cyberspace. In Frontiers, Big can be found in cyberspace where he shares his gospel of fishing with Sonic, allowing him to partake in the holy ritual. It can be gathered that Big, on a whim, decided to create his own subspace within cyberspace, with his own divine power, in addition to masking the entire space so he could go unnoticed. Seeing as how the entity never mentioned Big at all during the entirety of Frontiers, means that it simply didn't notice him. An entity who had the power to look into Sonic's mind and see all the foes he had faced in his past. Something that can wipe out an entire civilization with no effort at all. Something that is more powerful than anything that we've seen in the series before. Lore-wise at least. Failed to notice a dimension of Big's creation, and not to mention Big himself. With this, we can confirm that Big has the power to manipulate causality in addition to his transcendence of space and time. And this ability to manipulate causality was the thing that allowed him to enter the story of SA1 as he indeed willed it to happen. He knew about what the future held and desired to change it. So he manipulated reality itself to have himself inserted into the story via Froggy, making it seem like a coincidence when in actuality, it was part of his plan all along. Out of all the characters we've seen in Sonic history, there have been none that reached the heights that Big has reached. With all this evidence, there is absolutely no doubt that Big is the strongest Sonic character, and maybe even one of, if not the, strongest character in all of fiction. But if you somehow still don't believe me, there is one last thing, one last irrefutable piece of evidence that will prove everything. Big the cat in Brazil. I rest my case. So, while you're still here, want to read my Shadow X Bio Lizard fanfiction?